sure it gave him lots of great pleasure that it hurt Joe. They just had that rivalry.
Envelope 3 immediately. Ali was winning, wasn't he? That was a few up.
Yeah. Muhammad Ali was probably hit about 200,000 times during the course of his 61-bout career. It's estimated that half of those blows were to the head.
And ailing Ali said afterwards that the Thriller in Manila was the closest thing to dying that I would know. And then when later asked if he viewed the fight on videotape, before he said, why would I want to go back and see hell? We know, tragically, he developed Parkinson's, and it's not possible to say conclusively, although a lot of experts alleged it was, that the boxing caused the disease. There's pretty convincing data and correlation between being punched in the head and
yeah, they were
Parkinson's. And what I want to ask is, boxing itself, first of all, evil or genius? I mean, I've got to be honest, I hate all sport, football, everything. I follow boxing. I don't know what that says about me. There's a purity to it. There's no bullshit involved. It's punching each other in the head till someone wins. But at the same time, it's evil, is it not, Christopher McCarthy Boyd?
Well, we all Canadians, right? So every second of the day we think about how the Canadian people are. I always think it's weird when you see a boxer or an MMA guy, and you're like, every second of the day, your whole diet and lifestyle is fixated around how can I knock someone unconscious with my hand. It's horrible, man. I would like to hang out with someone like that.
So would you go, if you had the game today was boxing evil or genius, if I had to push you right now, would you say boxing evil?
100%, yeah. It's also very boring.
That's boring.
Yeah, my dad went to see Prince Nazim in London. He got the train down. Prince Nazim's an amazing boxer, but he went down.
You're backtracking.
Alright. But he was in the crowd, and then he went ding, and then someone bumped into him, and he turned round, and he turned back round, and it was over because he got knocked out immediately.
Well, that's just so exciting you missed it. Nora, boxing evil or genius?
I would say that the medically proven tremendous health risks that it poses, and then the money that people have paid to take those risks for their health is not great. I would say evil.
I'm going to put, obviously Muhammad Ali's, what happened to him later in life is horrible. A lot of that's from training as well. That's not even reasoning. That's just training. And they were boxing with those old boxing gloves that was like 2 suitcases attached to your hand. So they were not good. I think it's genius. I think there's so much to it. The footwork, the movement. You watch somebody like, say, Floyd Mayweather, how he boxed. But generally, I do enjoy the big sort of sluggers who just punch and throw windmills.
And did you enjoy boxing when you did it?
Nah, I fucking hated it, man. Oh, punched in the face sucks. Oh, I got hit in the nose. My eyes started watering. Didn't know what I was doing. I was sneezing. You ever sneeze while wearing a mouth guard and a head guard? Oh, it's the worst. You don't know what's happening to you. Yeah, not for me at all. But I'm a big fan of boxing in general. I think it's just like the heavyweight boxer, the baddest man on the planet. That's the way it's described. If you're the heavyweight champ, you are the baddest man on the planet. That is amazing to me.
How do you think it compares to MMA? Then I always think that
MMA is there's less injuries because you can choke people as well. I know, delightful. You can choke people as well, and because they're using elbows and knees, there's less likely of sort of head trauma because you have to kick and punch. Whereas boxing is purely just head predominantly. But I like MMA because they fight in like an octagon.
Yeah,
also, when they first started MMA, what they wanted to do was, instead of having the two guys fight in this octagon, they also wanted them above sharks. They were going to have a shark tank below, and you would just fight above sharks.
I think Boris Johnson and Donald Trump should do that first. And the floor gives way. So there is one aspect of it where we focused on the pugilism, but what about I grew up Essex borders, North London, Tottenham, Edmonton, Enfield. My town is currently the 9th crime capital of London, and there are a lot of boys around where I grew up. Boxing saved them. Anthony Joshua himself said, "But for boxing, I would be behind bars."
Yes.
It's got a social function in the
a
social
lot of
clubs
sport
and
does
everything.
in the way that you can work with the working class, and it's the only break a lot of people get. I still don't know if beating people until they have proper problems with their head later on in life is actually the best way to elevate a working class. So I feel like they should be other ways through.
I just enjoy violent sports, I think. I think that's me. I'd like cricket if they just hit each other with wickets.
Sorry, there's a Scottish audience. Cricket, it's where English... Okay, so I think Muhammad Ali, quick, funny, charismatic, probably would have made a fierce comedian if that's what he wanted. He would have had an amazing YouTube channel. He probably would have had a Netflix special by now. The guy could charm the pants off of anyone. He could punch the pants off of anyone. But we come to the point where we've got to weigh up the entirety of what he was, what he did, and what it meant to people. And this is where it goes to the scales. Ding, ding, it's time for the weigh-in. Hold in your mind the towering greatness of Muhammad Ali's pugilism and what he brought to the world. But please, please, do not underestimate the filth on the other side. I think we've not just examined, but we've proved that that speech was venomously hate-filled, and for all the good he did, he used some pretty disgusting, racially charged and misogynistic language. Weigh them up in your mind, because it's time to vote evil or genius. I'm going to go first to Laura Davis.
I think if he beat women, evil, no way around it.
Boom. So just purely on the fact he
Look, everything else, great job.
Yeah, but that's one massive 20
Jeff
kilo.
can't do it. Not negotiable.
That's one for evil on Muhammad Ali. Fantastic. There's jeopardy in the room. The audience are silent. It's not because of the tension. They're just unamused. Christopher.
I was reading that. I know, but far be it from me to tell anybody that a great symbol of black excellence is a racist, but he'd literally done a show for the KKK once, man, you know?
He did not.
He did.
Hang on a second. Hang on. You can't throw that in. Are you being rhetorical, or can you prove this? Get on with
When you say a show, were they chasing him?
Yeah, my verification team have just set a keyboard on fire. Christopher McArthur, boy. Are you suggesting that Muhammad Ali did a what do you mean a show, an exhibition?
A rally? Muhammad Ali believed in segregation. He said bluebirds are bluebirds and redbirds, pigeons are pigeons, and eagles are eagles, and you should not cross that divide.
I hear you're playing good.
Racial segregation. He done a rally for the KKK.
As I say, this is a woman over there going, yeah.
So I've just had confirmation that yes, indeed, Muhammad Ali did attend their meetings. I can't confirm, but he allegedly, according to Chris McArthur, did a rally. He definitely attended their meetings. So hang on a second. In the final minute of the show, we have the image of Muhammad Ali and a white individual.
It was cash up front.
Well, Chris McArthur, boy, I mean, in my mind, I went to the show today. This is going to be a boring show where we all voted genius. I cannot quite believe Laura Davis has already surprised me, coming in with a misogyny vote. We now have a racist allegation. Chris McArthur, boy, is now...
No racist allegation. It's allegation about racist.
Go on then. Evil or genius? Evil! Evil! So whatever happens, I now have to put Muhammad Ali in the evil box. It only remains to be seen whether it's going to be unanimous. Please. Darren Harris, another boxing fan.
How's our guy? Did he throw up in the back seat yet? Don't worry, we get...
His home life was not good, and that's definitely a scumbag move, but a lot of people who think are geniuses were pretty much scumbags. But that little bit of tidbit there about him being with the KKK and he believed in segregation and all that sort of stuff. I mean, yeah, he was evil.
I cannot believe what is happening. Wow. I cannot believe what I'm about to say. One of my idols, I've kept this close to my chest how much I've followed this, and I listened to the 2-hour special the day after he died. I'm crying on the inside. Muhammad Ali. Evil, ladies and gentlemen. One absolutely awesome panel. Thank you, Lauren Davis. Thank you, Darren Harris. Thank you, Chris McArthur, boy. Those boys love Scottish people. Thank you for Shitting hell! That's the most shocking one we've ever done. Yeah.
You're Dead to Me is a new history podcast for people who just don't like history, or at least people who forgot to learn any at school. In each of our episodes, I'm joined by a top-notch comedian and an expert historian to rummage through the most fascinating things you should know about the global past. You'll learn about Boudica, Captain Blackbeard, Harriet Tubman, the Spartans, the history of men's and women's football, and so much more. To fill in the blanks in your historical memory banks, subscribe to You're Dead to Me with BBC Sounds.
This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK.
This week on the podcast, Spark and Fire, comedian David Cross.
I never got shot out of a cannonball, but I love doing my own stunts.
David tells the story of playing advisor of beloved comedy series Arrested Development.
I watched it work. I don't think landing on the table was a part of it.
On Spark and Fire, creators share their stories. Spark and Fire is a Wait What original in partnership with the BBC. So follow us wherever you get your podcasts.
BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts.
Warning, this episode contains strong language. Welcome to Evil Genius from BBC Radio 4, the show where we take icons from history and reveal stuff about them so surprising you could kill your nan just by telling her. This series, we're revealing Bernard Manning to be a nice guy, Queen Victoria to be a Shagmaster legend, and Bug Albert to be just a skull on a stick. And we're showing Winston Churchill to be an excellent and loving husband. It's just a matter of time before I'm forced to do an episode about Pol Pot being really good at ceramics. It's the clues in the name there. Did I just do a cheap pun on a genocidal killer? I don't know. Let's take a poll. Prepare to reassess your heroes as me and my panel of jesters, some of whom are even a bit brainy, have our received opinions battered. And by the end of the show, my panel of three must vote one way or the other. Evil or genius. Maybe you find this whole idea reductive, reducing a complex debate to a simple yes or no. Well, welcome to the 21st century. # blue passports. Today, I'm almost tempted to suspend the vote and impose my imperial command on the panel, because our subject is Fidel Castro. My panel, I'm absolutely buzzing like a housewife's toy drawer to introduce these guys. Heidi Regan, maybe you've heard her on her Grown Up Land podcast. Konstantin Kissin, host of the Trigonometry podcast, and he never coasts. Eleanor Morton, stand-up and podcaster, host all rather mysterious. Okay, guys, so we're going to talk about Fidel Castro, but before we do, would you prefer to live to the age of 90 like Fidel? Or would you rather die early and be on the posters like Che Guevara, Bill Hicks, or Ken Dodd?
I thought I was going to say live long, but as soon as you said this, I think I'm going to go Bill Hicks.
Really?
Yeah.
Then you don't get
to live, yeah.
No.
But I mean, the longer I live, the more I'm disappointed with the world.
Imagine
if I died in 99, I would be like, what a lovely world we had.
Just the idea of me 90 going, come to my high energy extravaganza is so depressing. Hello? Die early, be on the posters, be a legend, or just have a long, satisfying career?
I thought, dying early on the t-shirts would be cool, but then I thought, well, you don't get to choose what picture people put on there.
No.
And we don't know if Che Guevara liked that photo of him. That might be like his worst one,
Yeah,
you know?
with his sex face.
So with that in mind, I think I'd rather live to 90 and have control of my image.
Yeah. Constantine.
Yeah, definitely live to 90. I want to be around for the final season of Brexit.
At the time of recording, Brexit hadn't been concluded. I'm sure when you're listening to this, it's all worked out fine. So, Fidel was born in 1926. Fidel.
We selling? Huh? Okay.
He went to Havana University where he trained as a lawyer. His his politics became more radical. And when General Batista overthrew the democratic government of Cuba, Fidel became leader of a group of rebels determined to put an end to Batista's dictatorship. In 1959, they were successful, and Fidel Castro became prime minister and later the president of Cuba. He ruled Cuba as a one-party state for 50 years. He survived 600 CIA attempts to assassinate him. What, if you saw it in a movie, you wouldn't believe it. What a bitch. He survived exploding cigars, poisoned pens, and an ex-lover who couldn't bring herself to kill him, so she made love to him instead, whilst begging for forgiveness. How Latin is that? Make love to me instead. The English version of that. I love you. I'm sorry.
She was apologising throughout as well, was she?
Yeah, that's the
I'm so sorry.
That's the English version. Yeah. Sorry. I think that's conservatory heaven. After handing power to his brother Raul, Fidel eventually died in 2016 at the ripe old age of 90. It's such a tragic. They're like the Chuckle Brothers of communism. Just involved. To me, Fidel. So a long life despite the CIA's best efforts, but we're going to reduce it to one decision. That's right, millennial councillors. You've got what you wanted. Evil or genius. A reductive, simplistic, ruining choice. Your world, live in it. And to help us out, we have 3 envelopes and 3 facts. Who's got the first?
I have the first. May I open it?
You may. Please do.
Opening my envelope.
Casey just got the envelope.
I am playing along like a good girl.
If you don't leave that in edit, that makes you the Fidel
Okay. He rescued Cuba from Batista. After finishing university, Fidel was going to stand in elections for the reformist Cuban People's Party. But before that could happen, former President General Batista, backed by the USA, overthrew the government and cancelled the elections. Fidel began to organize a band of rebel fighters in 1953, and in 1959, 800 of his guerrillas defeated Batista's 30,000 strong army.
Let's not underestimate those numbers. Mind you, I did defeat 400 drunk people last night. It's just me with the microphone. But he said, why do some people have to go barefoot so others can drive luxury cars? Why are some people able to... Sorry, I'm reading an old German book. Why are some people able to live only 35 years in order that others can live 70 years? Why do some people have to be miserably poor in order that others can be extravagantly rich? I speak for all the children in the world who don't even have a piece of bread. Castro was willing to die for his cause, and he appeared to believe that this, surely, is genius.
Yeah.
Shall we end recording now?
I think so.
Jim, what do you think? Have you grown up around language like that? What's your story?
Yeah, well, I'm from the Soviet Union originally, so I felt all this stuff.
So do you hear that and you just think, bullshit, that's not what he believed, or do you think...
No, it is what he believed, but it's like communism is a great idea in theory, isn't it?
Yeah, like lads, all of these Falaraki thing.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure that... Actually, I was reading about that very thing, and it turns out that when he was young, he lived in a house, and all of his possessions were taken away and repossessed because he was so impractical with money.
Who's this? Sorry?
Fidel Castro.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Who's that?
The guy we're talking about.
Are you telling me a future communist dictator had possessions forcibly redistributed by this chance? Have you found the inciting incident?
I think it's why he left him because of it. Because he basically didn't care about money at all, so his furniture got taken away from his house. And she was like, I've had enough of it. So yeah, I think it's just theory.
Do you think that a lot of these, and now mostly men, start out genuinely wanting to distribute bread to the poor, but end up being megalomaniacs, or does some start out always being evil bastards, and does some stay true to the cause? In your opinion, is it always the communist project with good intentions that turn sour, or is it more complicated than that?
Well, I think the only way to create that is by taking money and possessions away from people. Like my grandparents in the Soviet Union, is exactly what happened to them. They had a cow, and that made them rich. So people came to the house and took the cow away and sent them off to the Gulag in Siberia. So
the cows were Gulag?
No, the cows stayed very much within the country.
Where in the Soviet Union?
Well, this was in Ukraine. But I'm from Russia, but they were in Ukraine, yeah. So I think eventually that's kind of what ends up happening, is you end up, rather than, we talk about the 1% all the time now, right? Rather than taking some of their tax money away, what happens is you have to really attack the people who are just middle class and they have something. And I think
Eleanor, can people share? Human beings are not designed to share everything equally. We're designed to want to share everything equally with our high ideals and massive prefrontal cortex. But anyone who's been on a holiday even with their closest friends with a pot in the middle that's going to nail the trees, you can't even get back to work for more than 3 days before you want to punch Tracy's face in.
No, and
so how are we going to run a country with confidence principles?
I can definitely relate to that as well because I'm a comedian and all my friends have proper jobs. So I guess I'm the parasitic czar feeding off the work of others. We go away and I'm like, I don't ask, I don't say, I'd like you to buy me a drink. I just say, I don't have enough money at the moment. Yeah, so then they just buy one. But yeah, I mean, you're like, shall we just split the bill? It's fine for everyone. We all ate. And I'm like, no, we shouldn't go because no, absolutely not. Well, I don't even say that. I just don't pay. I just pay exactly what I. But yeah, I mean, we want to be nice, don't we? But I think the problem is if we started from day one and everyone's sort of got together and thought, right, we'll put this here and this here, but we don't just start from this position where there is this massive difference in wealth. Like somewhere like Russia was one of the most prominent examples of like people being massively unequal. Like at the beginning of the century, the wealth of the Tsars was just like nothing they've ever seen, and then the peasants were just almost pre-industrial. So it's really hard. It's really hard to deal with that. I mean, and I really don't envy South America being in that position where every time they want to do anything at all, America's like, hey guys, we thought we'd do something actually, and they're just like the annoying neighbour who just comes around and goes, we were thinking we were going to repaint the roof, and that's going to be too
Yeah, the annoying older sibling.
Yeah.
I've learned this song, really. I've learned the whole of Andy tomorrow. I know we can sort this mess out. Heidi Regan. Are we taking... I mean, the bill split is a perfect example. We're not going to solve Latin American and Caribbean communism because we're just 4 idiots in a room. But we can talk about this idea of splitting the bill. Let's, for a thought experiment, say that all of your friends are of equal wealth. But some people drink more, some people eat more, some people have had a big lunch. What's fairer? We either get separate bills and split it unequally and we pay for what we've used, or we say, sorry, it doesn't matter if I've had the fillet steak and the Merlot, everyone's going to get the same bill split 12 ways for all of $30 a year and we work as a unit. This could be a proxy for the Cuban situation. Heidi Regan, what's the answer? We can finish this episode early.
I mean, my feelings on this, I come from a very strong history of where I had very low-paying jobs and would go to dinners with friends who were on high-paying jobs, and it would really stress me out for the whole meal waiting to see what the decision was going to be at the end for how to do that. And I would make very loud and passive-aggressive come out, no starter for me, actually no thing for me because it's going on, I'm just really tight on money right now. And then at the end it was 50-50 whether they go, it's just easier guys if we just split. I was like, no, I can't, I ate nothing because of this. But that comes from a perspective where we're on unequal.
So
if I had 30 grand, okay,
it's still unfair.
Yeah.
My thought experience unfair. We're all on 30 grand a year.
I still think pay for what you're doing because then it encourages people to not be pricks and happy.
Heidi Regan, free market capitalist.
If you split it equally, is there maybe that sort of the idea behind that is that eventually we'll go out for dinner again, and someone who didn't have a lot will have more, and then.
But there's always going to be that part. But there's always going to be the one who just always gets 3 meals.
Yeah, and
always
like say that as a.
Yeah.
I hate that.
The man whose family's cow was repossessed.
Saying to Heidi, what you need at the end of that dinner is to pull out a gun and then make everyone pay for your dinner.
The Soviet method. So there is genius in that, though, isn't there? With 800 people to take on Batista and his 30,000 up, and he didn't do it with military might. He was cleverer than that. Radio broadcasts, PR, smoke and mirrors. There's one story, some people say it's spurious, but the Castro regime said it was true, that they brought journalists out to see the size of his army. And what they would do is brilliant. It's like if you put it in a comedy script, I'd take it out being too obvious. He'd walk them round in a circle, and they would pass one set of soldiers who then change their jackets slightly and pass them again, giving the impression of lots of troops in the hills.
Like a Trump rally.
Exactly. When it was only 800. I mean, that is more genius than bringing the tenets of communism to an island that didn't have it.
Couldn't the journalist tell because all the soldiers were giggling the second time round and then giggling, I can't even get away. Yeah.
My name's Mario. Not Mario, it's Peter. I am Terry now. I'm sure there's no one called Terry in Q.
I'm saying all Cubans look the same, by the way. How do they not see?
Well, they're saying when you jump, you just want to gun through the tree. Oh, there's another 20 over there, so then they would run round, and then there's another 100 as captain to kick off. And then he used these techniques to kill uprisings realistically well. Was his heart, just before we move on to envelope 2, with Brown taking just on this one, was his heart in the right place or not? Or was it just another power-hungry, heterosexual, angry man who wanted to run things?
Heterosexual, right?
He was pounding everything like a pestle. That's my point.
I did
come on to that.
keep Darren's heart in the right place, so far I'm totally Team Castro.
Right, okay.
Heart in the right place, no brain.
It's not brain, is that true?
Yeah.
The people go now.
Yeah, I think it did, yeah. I would say, though, that it is typical of a heterosexual man to make a mess in his house and his wife going and just assuming that she won't be annoyed by that, and then when she's gone, he's like, oh, well, was that a revolution? What did I do?
Well, this is nicely on to envelope number 2.
Oh!
Bust that and spit them truths.
Okay, here we go. I'm tearing open the envelope. I haven't got my
It's
letter
available on
with
Twitter
me.
if you want to stalk my Patricia Sally.
Okay, envelope 2. He was a megalomaniac dictator.
Oh, you're doing so well.
Twist. It is estimated that around 400 of his political opponents were executed within the first 90 days of his rule. LGBT people were sent to prison or re-education camps in the 60s and 70s. In 1993, even his daughter fled the island.
Right, so at first, Fidel claimed not to be a communist. With this statement, I am not a communist at all, he said on American TV in 1959. He claimed he wanted to restore democracy, but with a sort of socialist bent. But of course, once everyone started to dump him, he had no choice but to wine and dine the Soviets and East Germany, because that's where the funding was come from. So he sort of shifted from socialism into communism. He also said, and this is something we really need to unpack, we would never come to believe that a homosexual could embody the conditions and requirements of conduct that would enable us to consider him a true revolutionary, a true communist militant, Fidel Castro told an interviewer in 1965. Well, being the business I'm in, I've got a lot of gay friends, and they are the most revolutionary, shaking up people I know, so I'm calling bullshit on that. But the main thing I want to ask, I've never understood this. I like to think I'm quite good at, even when I think the total opposite of someone, understanding how they've got there. So, for example, I come from Essex, very Brexit. I come from a very right-wing white family. But I've always understood how Uncle Darren got to the position of, you sound different to me, you look different to me, you're taking my stuff, I want the stuff to be kept.
For the record, Russell's pointing at me the whole time.
Do you know what I mean? You can see how they got there. What the hell has being gay got to do with redistributing wealth? Or even if you're right-wing, why can't I be gay and hate Polish people at the same time? Why?
Well, I'm gay, and as we just saw from the dinner experiment, I wanted not to do the communist option, so maybe, you know, he had a point.
Homosexuality is a capitalist trait.
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
That's what I've learned today. That's what I've learned today about myself.
Is it offensive to say gay so much? So hard now.
It probably is by the time this goes out.
Yeah,
it wasn't when we said it.
But, so you have these re-education camps, which are not, I mean, I'm stuck as a 14-year-old boy in my mind. The gay re-education camp is going out and being forced to have sex with, oh my God, I think I might be gay, I need to go back. I need to go back for another course with Maria.
Get out.
You're still a bit of gay lesson, you're back to the bunker. Oh no, not another session. I don't think it was that. I think it was electrodes on the bottom.
That's you being excited to have sex with a girl there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you realise in that scenario you should have...
That's why I was pretending to be gay in order to get a course of training.
I think it's possible 100% homosexual men
Yo, get...
pretending to be gay and getting it really wrong, and then so Fidel's like, these people are weird.
Why is there still a cure for the gay correction? These guys hate women. Can I bring my oxen? No, but I mean, okay, we're being horrible, that's our job, we're stand-ups, but we all know what these places really were. What? This went on in the Soviet as well.
Yeah.
What the hell has it got to do with communism?
Was it
Why can't I live with my boyfriend and be into redistributing wealth? If anything, I'm more likely to be into fairness if I've had an unfair start in life and been judged, right?
Is it him? Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say...
I give up my straight white privilege.
No, I was going to say, trying to guess, is it, like you said, the time, but also someone trying to keep power, like happens now, picking a minority to slam and distract everyone with that? Like, don't worry, I'm taking care of this minority that polls show me a lot of you hate.
Yeah,
right,
because...
Right. So maybe he had no opinion on...
I'm assuming he didn't.
I think it's about control as well. I think that's what it is as well. It's like any totalitarian system, which is what communism always becomes. It has to keep everybody in check, everybody thinking the same thing.
If it isn't my creepy silent friend. How can I help?
They're always going to be
hey, you're in trouble. Okay, I'll deal with it.
I think it's probably about making everybody conform more than anything.
It could be, but I think you made such a good point there, Heidi, because we've got him here. He's got a track record of saying, I'm not a communist, then 2 years later going, actually, I can get more money from saying, I am a communist.
Yeah.
So I've got no problem with gay people. Wait a minute. All the Catholic population would love me if I hate gays. Yeah, I hate gays.
Yeah.
It could be that.
Definitely souring me on him in terms of doesn't seem to be sticking to his principles.
So, come on, Eleanor, what's going on here?
I was just going to say, I mean, to be that sort of person who's like, but then it's the time, because I think there's a lot of evidence of, they wouldn't call them re-education camps, but certainly a lot of American evangelical, a lot of people were very religious, very right-wing in America at the time, and they were also sending gay people to conversion therapy, camps, that sort of thing as well. So it's definitely not unique to Fidel.
No, but it's odd to link.
It's horrible.
It's odd to link it to hampering the communist cause, because to me, if I'm going to march into a country and go, everyone's redistributing the wealth, I want behind me. I want my gay people behind me, my student dropouts, my hippies, all the people that like shaking things up and shaking the status quo away. They'd be on my float all like that. Redistribute the wealth.
Yeah.
You don't want sort of power-hungry men that want to keep things to themselves. They're going to be the worst people for redistributing stuff.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't make sense to me.
But that's in an ideal world where this is in the 50s or whatever.
Yeah, my gay communist float was a float. Everyone wants to get on board.
I would imagine Latin America was quite conservative sort of values at that point, and
historically Catholic, although beneficially atheist.
Yeah. So I can imagine that probably would have sadly appealed to quite a lot of people, which is sad.
And it's him trying to consolidate power quickly, I'm guessing.
This is the other thing, which it's just natural to go to Constantine. Why does it happen?
We on? Okay. It's a boat drop. Products.
Uniform on and keeping it militaristic. What is the intrinsic link between me being the uncle who wants to love everyone, give huge support, and suddenly becoming a bellend? Like, when you've got an uncle who's in the territorial army and come down to breakfast in his uniform, I'm ready to attack at any moment. Why? What's the link? Why does it have to be totalitarian and no voices in order for fairness to...
Well, it's hard to take everyone's stuff away without guns, and that's the point I was making to Heidi about the dinner, right? If you want to take everybody's stuff away, eventually people are like, no, we don't want this, then you have to use force. I think that's why.
So we just doomed the whole project then, because if we were all going to live in this room forever and we share equally, as you're saying, at some point one of us is going to raise a fist and go, remember, we're sharing, guys. It's the natural conclusion, no matter what the intention.
But also in this room, like, we would all have to take money away from you to pay for us. That's kind of how it would work.
As far as I know, that's what's bloody up.
But that literally would be communism right now. We would take all your money and distribute it to the three of us.
Well,
it sounds good to us.
I didn't get any share of those, so...
Off his own money, yeah.
Yeah, very nice, very generous. I think the military aspect is very much also this thing, like, it's the kind of blank canvas, and it shows also that, look, I've not overcome with wealth and luxury, I'm still this basic kind of person. And also khaki is universal fluctuating as a colour, so yeah.
Khaki. But what? This is the other thing I don't understand. I'm learning a lot today. Am I just so optimistic that I don't understand the world? Why can't I start a country go, we're a communist country, but anyone is allowed to put forward their version of how we do it. There can be multi-pot parties, as long as you're socialist principled. So I might think we should do this to run the hospital. You might do that. Let's have an election. Let's decide who's the best version of what our country's ethos is. Why does it always have to degenerate into one PhD man on a trip? It always ends in dictatorship, doesn't it? Some of them don't even die. Some of them are nasty. The North Korean leader who I would support. That's been technically in charge of things in North Korea, the first leader.
Yeah, he's always been the god of the
free.
Oh, wow.
Why do you have to degenerate into that?
I think people get really like this side that they know best, and they're like, well, I know it seems like I'm a dictator, but honestly, I'm making all the right decisions, so no one else can possibly. And
as soon as you said, why can't we find a way to talk about everyone can have their own ideas, I immediately thought, what if the real dictators get to do their ideas? What if the
Well, it's a good point actually. Are we drifting towards sort of Castroization on politics, where the personality is almost more important than politics? Now, you could be using this in 2021, hope you are. But I'm guessing if you're listening to this in 2021, there's still a larger than life personality drawing attention away from schools and education, called psychic, if I've got that right. And that seems to be ramping up. We've had Donald Trump as president, we've seen the Tommy Robinsons of this world, we've seen Nigel Farage, then we had Boris Johnson, and then if you remember back to Theresa May, these sort of grey administrators are falling away. Just a few years ago, your choice was Ed Miliband or David Cameron. 0.1 or 0.112, oh, I can't have an election, it's so 10. There was no difference. But this Castroization, this figure, this person on the banknote,
Jeremy Corbyn is the outlier, and I think
but are we heading towards that vibe in our climate?
Personality is going to be very important, and humour as well.
Is this why we're seeing this phenomenon of comedians being elected leaders? Yeah. So, I mean, happen once was maybe smart. Happened twice, like something going on here. We're seeing him Craig, an actor who played a comic actor who played a politician become a leader. We've seen him in Italy. Around this table, am I looking at the next Prime Minister?
I didn't want to make my announcement today.
I'm the Supreme Leader. I'm going to recess my now.
Well, people say that about Donald Trump, that he's like a stand-up comedian. You see him trying out lines, and then they work or they don't work, and if they don't work, he drops them, just like what we did. You know, trying stuff out, and then you choose a different one.
Did he go down to an open mic? I got some stuff to go through, guys. I'm going to use notes.
That's a great joke. I think people tell me that is the best joke in the world.
Tremendous joke. I think people have switched from wanting politicians to be social figures to guide us and parentally look after us. I think that's sort of switched now to us wanting quote-unquote normal people in charge of like real people. And for some people that is Donald Trump because they see him as somehow a success. He's like a normal guy, and that's what we want to see. People like, oh, it's a normal person. But I mean, obviously they're not. But well, especially. But
funny you were. Travel on you.
I'm sure Michael knows done that as well. But yeah, I think we need, as a people, we like that we want this somehow this idea of realism, but it's not real. You know, it's a different type of theatre.
And I think that period of inauthenticity has led us to where we are now, where we're craving someone who feels real.
And that's the way Castro presents himself.
Yeah. Forgot what it was about.
Like Castro, talk about politics.
What is saying is relevant? Is envelope number 3, please?
Oh, here we go, the magic envelope. This is the kind of envelope we have in Russia.
Silent envelope, assassination method. Oh, we'll not be expecting the silent envelope.
Well, this I did not know. She was a green champion, apparently. The Caroline Lucas of Latin America. As well as achieving nearly 100% literacy, life expectancy close to that of the Western world, especially for herself, and some of the best strength doctors in the world. In 1992 speech to the UN Earth Summit in Rio, Castro said, If we want to save humanity from self-destruction, there must be a better distribution of the wealth and technologies available on the planet. Less luxury and less waste in a few countries, so there is less poverty and hunger in much of the world.
Yeah. Wasn't Castro saying back then something we're only just working out here in the West?
Yeah.
We can't argue with his record when it comes to health and education. Okay, it went a bit wonky towards the end, but the fact he did it for
They
have really good healthcare in the day.
One of my favourite moments in cinema in the recent years was Michael Moore's 2007 movie Sicko, where he took a bunch of sick American people around the US to get treatment they couldn't, then got a boat to Cuba, and they were all treated for free, even as tourists.
And they were crying, it's really wonderful.
To do this on a tiny island that has been shackled to various imperial power with almost zero resources, after descending from a jungle with 800 guerrilla soldiers. Genius, surely. Surely you can give a bit of gay correction.
Well, I certainly can.
But he's going in that direction, the direction we're going away from now. This green revolutionary thinking, universal healthcare, and education 100% literacy in a country that was a sort of third world.
I always say this about the Soviet Union. It was a great country. We had, I mean, generally, not that I'm a big fan of communism, but you had amazing progress on equality between men and women, for example. It was very progressive, actually. Education, 100% literacy. It's a huge country, which was very kind of rural and mostly peasants. Suddenly we went to very high literacy.
I didn't know that about Sophie.
Yeah, healthcare, all of this stuff was great. It's just a pity you had to kill 50 million people to make it happen.
Right.
And control
everyone and not allow anyone to reach that change.
But as far as we know, Castro wasn't.
Right.
Castro wasn't, yes, okay, brutally generous. As far as I know, he certainly wasn't assassinating the populace or killing peasants or seizing.
So was he not doing any? He killed his enemies at the start, 400.
Killed his enemies, but the actual people. So, for example, my wife, her grandfather's Ukrainian, very much alive and well. That makes a great Ukrainian granddad. He's in his 90s, and it still was fresh yesterday what happened here. The Russians turned up. No longer in the farm. Sister starved to death in front of him. And the only way my granddad, by marriage, got out was he had to lie on the bodies of his dead family, pretend to be dead, while the German shepherds sniffed the corpses and fled across Europe. Now, Castro, as far as I know, didn't do any of that stuff. He didn't seize land from hard-working, ordinary people and redistributed it, but he really did focus on the rich, or have I misunderstood?
Well, I think he seized land from fairly wealthy landowners, and I think his mother actually left Cuba because he seized her land and redistributed it. Her good son.
He's putting his money where his mouth is.
But that's different. A man of pressure. The Soviet enterprise, the Cuban enterprise, are very different creatures, aren't they? I mean, I tend to think he genuinely was trying to make it work, whereas once the Soviet bad boys were in charge, they really did everyone sort of smoke, an Orwellian word almost, which is deleted. Banished.
The cancel culture of the 20th century.
I went to do analog cancelling. Getting into that band, please. So this is a man with very little resources doing amazing work. He's not hiding.
Yeah, and he is.
Just can't get over the correction.
Well, I feel like I'm betraying myself. I go like, you know what, you gotta do a few little things to get. I would have hated to live there myself, obviously, but I do like the communism in theory thing. But yeah, it does feel like it gets out of hand almost every time.
I'm not a communist at all, but I would like to see a fairer society. Yeah. But is it not the best attempt we've ever seen at creating this type of society, as failed and as imperfect as it was, Eleanor?
I kind of think so. I mean, obviously I don't know much about any of it, and the only other comparison
I
definitely think so. No, I don't know about anything. I've got a friend whose parents, she's from East Germany and East Berlin, and her parents grew up behind the wall. And they say obviously it's much better now in lots of ways, and we're much happier now, and we can have this freedom and things. But they said, but that's not to say that everything was bad. That's not to say everything was terrible. There were some really good things, and they did enjoy the equality, the education they got to have. Obviously it's hard because the good and the bad, you've got to really balance it out. But but you can't, 100% literacy is a huge thing, and when you compare it, green thinking, comparing it to somewhere like America as well, where, it's very much sort of feels like it's going backwards in both of those regards. And you kind of do have a bit of an underdog feel to Cuba, where you are a bit like, it's kind of satisfying to see them get one over the Americans, which is really terrible, but...
But to add to your granddad's story, my grandfather was also Ukrainian. During the war, he was taken as a slave laborer by the Germans, right? And this is on the equality point that you talk about, because when he went to Germany as a slave laborer, when I asked him about this, what was it like, he said they fed us really well. So compared to his life in the Soviet Union, being a slave laborer in Germany was actually an improvement. So some of this equality was very much achieved by making everybody really worse off.
That's like when I moved from Basildon to Southend. You can judge me, but it's a step up. Well, we're out of time, and I would not want to be my panel. Mostly, if you're a fan of Evil Genius, you'll know we normally start with someone who thinks amazing, and I throw a bit of mud into his head's confused, or catch the Bernard Manning episode in this series, we'll start with someone that everyone judges, and then I throw genius. This is a slightly different enterprise today in that it was already a 50-50 picture in my head, and I've not helped my poor panel at all. But alas, this is the era we live in. R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, Roll Harris, all the musical greats were gone overnight. We live in an era that is both a definition of more versus personal, more pronouns, and it's this or that. That's the time we live in, a black and white and grey, both equally. And that's why it's horrible to ask you instead, what I'm about to ask you, that is to vote Fidel Castro, evil or genius. It'll be lovely to get a unanimous vote, but there's 3 panellists. It doesn't matter if it's my vote.
Can I just say, I think evil is a spectrum. I think we should respect that. No, I'm going with evil, but
Constantine straight in there with a vote.
Evil, but I do respect the guy. I mean, you have to say everything is achieved. He's obviously charismatic, obviously very creative.
You could be talking about Ted Bundy.
That's my point. Right, that's exactly my point. So, evil, but very good at it.
Right, okay, so who shall I go to next? Who looks the most confused out of you two to add a bit of suspense? I'm going to go to Eleanor next. Completely baffled.
I feel... I would like to preface this by saying that I think the genius doesn't mean good.
No, exactly right.
But I would say to be in power still, I mean, well, he basically was in power until his death at the age of 90. For the whole of the 20th century, as a communist leader, situated where he was, in the Caribbean, near one of the biggest capitalist powers in the world, I would say he is a genius for being able to pull that off.
Fantastic. That's the vote from Eleanor Morton, so it means just Heidi Reid. Whether the most interesting attempt at communism in the history of mankind, the figure that embodied it, is evil or genius. It's very much the type of stand-up you perform on a nightly basis, so it should be easy.
My entire stand-up is based on me going, it's so hard to know anything. Who can have a strong opinion on anything? I'll preface it with, as I mentioned, I'm gay. I wouldn't have liked to live there and be put in a conversion camp. But also, as I was saying, at that time, a lot of countries I wouldn't have liked to live in as an openly gay person.
So if we're looking at we hold the scales in our head on this show.
Yeah.
We see the genius on one side, the evil on the other.
Yeah.
Let's reduce the weight of the gay hating because he may be affected by the global homophobia.
Yeah, we take that, that's more than just me going, I'm not a self-hating gay who's like, I knew what I had to do to it. But I think Eleanor has a very good point of that it's not saying evil versus good, it's evil versus genius for what he achieved with the CIA on his back every day, like we've all had to deal with.
That's it. We have voted Castro genius. 2 votes to 1. I'm absolutely delighted with that one. Thank you very much to my panellists, Heidi Regan, Constantine Kissin, and Eleanor Morton. Thanks for listening to Evil Genius from BBC Radio 4. If you're looking for more, you can listen to all our past episodes on BBC Sound. There are other places, but this is dictatorship. And we urge you to go to BBC Sound, so one of my agents will come around and correct your figures. Do also try and catch up on our evaluation of Castro's arch nemesis, JFK. Hit subscribe for plenty more. And remember, brothers and sisters, keep the revolution alive. Unless you're splitting the bill, because I didn't order the steak, and that's bang out of order.
I find quite.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed that podcast. I don't know what I don't even know what the podcast was. This whole thing has been recorded in the 1940s. But anyway, if you didn't enjoy that podcast, another podcast you can also not enjoy is one that I do, Professor Brian Cox, Into the Monkey Cage. There are well over 100 of them now. We cover all scientific subjects from dreams to dinosaurs, end of the universe. We did quantum gravity, the end of the universe, and ravens. We did one on ravens and then one on ravens. We actually had a live raven that outstared you. And I think even the radio listener or the podcast listener, you have to say that. What's radio? What's radio? It's on BBC Sounds as well, and that's enough. You can just say that. It's on BBC Sounds. Download them on BBC Sounds, all of them. They're fantastic. And, I mean, everything's brilliant. It's really right well done.
Years ago, I was filming an East London mosque when the story broke. 3 schoolgirls from the area had gone missing. They were heading to Syria to join the Islamic State group. Kim-Pedersen was the only one of the girls to emerge from the ashes of the so-called caliphate. I've retraced her steps to investigate the truth of her story. What do you think people think of you? As a danger, as a risk. The Kim-Pedersen story, Series 2 of I'm Not a Monster. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the BBC.
This podcast is supported by advertising outside the UK. This week on the podcast, Sparking Fire, comedian David Cross.
I never got shot out of a cannonball, but I love doing my own stunts.
David tells the story of playing Tobias Fugit, a beloved comedy series, Arrested Development.
Of course it did hurt. I don't think landing on the table was a part of it.
On Sparking Fire, creators share their stories, rule or creativity. Sparking Fire is a Way What original in partnership with BBC. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts.
BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts.
Warning, this episode contains strong language. Greetings, all those who believe in greatness. Enid Blyton, sexist, racist, spiteful mother. Richard Pryor, oh so funny, wife-beating junkie bastard. Coco Chanel, yeah, a friggin' Nazi. Little back dress, anyone? Silence! Prepare yourself. Your heroes are in trouble. On a scale from 1 to 10, this show goes at their reputations full. Harvey Weinstein. This is Evil Genius! Yes, welcome to BBC Radio 4 Evil Genius. Live from the George Heriot School in the throbbing heart of Edinburgh's awesome Fringe Festival. Audience make some noise! It's the show where we take legends you love, and after plying a panel with revelations, I make the panel vote the evil or genius. It's a mental game you play every time you switch on the news these days. R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, my Spotify playlist is basically silent. Why couldn't you be Rick Astley or Maroon 5 and not accused of something? I don't want to live like Jagger, I can live with that. In previous episodes, we've revealed Randy Pants JFK was awful at politics and would have shagged an exhaust pipe and painted lipstick on it. We fired shots at liberal mandates by reversing the game, showing how Margaret Thatcher was a green pioneer and a woman-empowering wealth maker. WTF. Evil Genius is a mind-melting place to be, and by the end of this show, my panel of jesters must reductively and simplistically decide evil or genius. must decide evil or genius for a man once voted the greatest ever Briton. I'm talking about Winston. Now, I couldn't do this on my own. I need to meddle with the minds of three fantastic performers. I've got Deliso and Chaponda, who've shown blah blah blacklist, touring now people, so perfectly genius. I couldn't wait to get him on. I was actually on air doing something else when I started begging my producer to book it. It's all about disgraced heroes, alive and dead.
Yes, heroes who've been destroyed by people like you.
Yes, exactly. Well, just wants to be a comedian co-host with phenomenal Albert Hall-filling Guilty Feminist podcast, an actor who's been in she's just really good at stuff. Well done. Cheers, mate. It's a podcaster too, who brings smashing it. Is there anything you can't do, Jess?
Dancing.
I'll put you on strictly, be careful what you say.
My 3-year-old.
Oh, I've got that one.
This is one of those questions you've asked that I could fill the hour with this, so we'll move on.
Can I just say about 3-year-old? I've got a 3-year-old. I'm very nice. And you know what people say to you when you've got a 3-year-old? Just have another one. They play with each other. They don't. The older one turns into Ted Bundy, and you have to follow him round, make sure he doesn't hurt the little one. Leave me alone with the baby partner. I won't hurt him. Allow me. And also, Ivo Graham's here, and he's touring his Edinburgh show, The Game of Life. Welcome, all of my panel. Ivo, lovely to see you. Whatever. I'm a fan girl. I don't want to do too much space, but I love to see you. But I want to know what some of your projects you've ever done. In 2009, my first year at the Edinburgh Fringe, I did a routine about how my younger brother hadn't really hit puberty yet. And it was pretty inspiriting and lazy and fairly critical because I wasn't usually far along in the process myself. So I got so many sort of family members coming along to support, you know, Hugh and Emma's son who's making a terrible mistake. Most of them stopped bothering. So they all came and all saw this, and I think it was a source of quite a lot of embarrassment to my 13-year-old brother. And he came with me on an extremely poor-selling tour of the Scottish Highlands. Not a lot of fans in the away. But we had a nice couple of drinks after one of the cancelled shows. And he told me that 10 years on, he'd forgiven me, and that was a huge moment for me. Fantastic. Oh, wow. So, most of your father here, and by default, because you've got quite an interesting background, haven't you?
Yes, my father is a politician in Malawi. You know, they're always talking about the activists from Malawi, and people come to the oh, you've come so far. I've not come so far, but my dad, that's who it is. But my genius thing, I'm brilliant way to lie. You can get away with lie. It's my method. What you do is help it. Then you lie, and you think, oh, why am I lying? And then you tell the lie. And then they believe what you say.
No, it doesn't work well. Are you single, Delisa, by any chance?
Yeah, I wasn't. I was such a Valentine's. I'm not single, and part of the reason I am not single is the lying method.
Oh, it works so well. It's quite a lovely romantic story. Jess?
The only genius thing I think I've ever done is once I was working in a tourist attraction as a zombie, naturally. And I got a 20-minute lunch break and I had to get to the cash point, and there was a man in front of me at the cash point. He stood there for ages, eventually left, and when I got to the cash point his tenner was still sticking out. They wouldn't let me use the machine unless I took it, so I took it, spent it that night at gym. The next day I said to my colleagues, you know, spent the tenner now, I think I'm going to give it back, because I did have a slip with this money. Anyway, I just went and did it. In the bank they were like, ridiculous, you get the money back to him, but what's he going to do? You know, he's not going to give you any money back. And I went back to work thinking really stupid. That afternoon I went out for a break and there was some crunchy leaves outside. It was in London Bridge in London, and under my coat was the cash.
There you go. That's how Now, I don't want to make you intimidated, but we're going to whiz through Winston Churchill with it. and then decide whether he was evil or genius. I'm sure that won't end up in the press or he won't end up in trouble. Leonard Spencer Churchill was born in Blenheim Palace on the 30th of November 1874. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, was the third son of the 7th Duke of Marlborough. At 8, he was sent to a boarding school at Ascot, where the headmaster took a great pleasure in flogging the boys until their bottoms ran with blood. Maybe he thought they were horses. Convinced that his son was not clever enough for university, Lord Randolph was impressed enough by his enthusiasm, with which he manoeuvred his toy soldiers when he was a child to try and get him into Sandhurst. He failed the exam a good few times, got him on the third time. He then embarked on an army career, India, Sudan, but Paul Addison writes, he, as much as he enjoyed soldiering, he regarded it as a means to an end, making a reputation that would propel him in the House of Commons, much like the way we cynically do TV to fill theatres. He became a Conservative MP in 1900, but in 1904 he joined the Liberal Party, #Churka, in support of free trade. He then attacked his former party with ferocity that gave rise to lasting enmities, the accusation that he was a turncoat. A cabinet member from 1908, he was the First Lord of the Admiralty from 1911 until the disastrous Dardanelles expedition in the early part of World War I. You don't know what that is. That's where he was about to invade Turkey. He went, hang on, let's think about it for a month, and in that month the Turkish advanced and killed everyone. He served on the Western Front for a time before rejoining government when World War II was played out, blah blah blah, came time, blah blah blah, dead. So that's Winston Churchill. It was a massive life, and it was a massive personality. Normally I would go to people, what do you know about Winston Churchill? I feel on this particular show, we should crack straight on to how the show works, which is each of our panellists has a back bomb envelope, which they will open, something you may or may not know, to drive a discussion, shedding uncomfortable light or comfortable light on the man's genius. So I'm going to crack straight on with envelope 1. Who has? I've got an envelope saying Churchill 1. I reckon that's the one Poirot. Churchill could not be judged by ordinary standards. He was different from anyone we had ever met before, or this is going to be cut up and used in something separately, is it, Russell? Yes. Churchill could not be judged by ordinary standards. He was different from anyone we had ever met before, or would ever meet again. As a war leader, he was head and shoulders above anyone the British or any other nation could produce. He was indispensable, completely irreplaceable. He was a child of nature. He venerated tradition, but ridiculed convention. His courage, enthusiasm, and industry were boundless, and his loyalty was absolute. In his first speech in the House of Commons as Prime Minister, on 13th of May 1940, Churchill said, "You ask what is our aim, and I answer in one word. It is victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory, however long and hard the road may be." And with him, as Prime Minister, we narrowly avoided being invaded by the Nazis. Genius? It brings to mind Boris Johnson's speech about becoming Prime Minister. Look at this. I hate the toy bus. I mean, we have pretty bad. The Dardanelles, which I don't want to get into like nerdy military history, but the long and short of it is he made a lot of mistakes, but he went right back in, which I admire because if I don't succeed, run away and never try to do it again. And so I just admit that, if I try to cook something and I fail, I'll never try and cook that thing again. Messing up a world war, well, the next world war, I reckon I'll probably
I don't read that as impressive at all. Like, I read that as psychopath. I honestly, like, if you've ruined something that badly and then think, probably get it. Psychopath's one word. Intense arrogance.
egotist.
Yeah.
As someone who went to boarding school myself, I can say that intense arrogance and a total confidence in one's ability to do anything, despite previous failures in that specific domain, is very much on the curriculum.
Did you say school as Churchill?
No, but...
You went to the better ones, didn't you?
It's not important to get to.
Eton!
Yes, very much so. Actually, no, when it comes to this, particularly in the current climate, all boys' schools is required.
Let's crack on. His most important contribution was the amazing effect of his presence, most of all his speeches. But I think sometimes, if someone's better at speeches than actual doing, it can be scary. Never mind. Churchill's speeches during the summer and autumn of 1914 were the most inspired and inspiring of his long political life. Blood, toil, tears and sweat. We shall fight on the beaches. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty, and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say this was their finest hour.
Russell got down to the last fine to play Churchill in the Crown.
Yes.
Narrowly
I
beaten by John.
had a Crown casting actually, but it was for a working class person that breaks in summer. So opinion polls recorded he had 88% public approval as Prime Minister. He had the reality, of course, behind the scenes was, he thought, we're definitely going to lose, we're definitely going to be invaded unless I can persuade Roosevelt to get involved, which he did pretty much on the blower single-handedly, saying, please, Pearl Harbor's exploding result. That's pretty much how it works. There's also one other thing that's never happened on this show, The Great Man, before. I dug and dug and dug, but he loved his wife and was a nice family man. This has never happened to any man born before. Winston called himself Pug or Piggy their lessons. His wife was Clementine and was called Cat, and their children were kids, although it's not all nice if you have 6 pigs.
I think, I'm not making this up, but I think he had a special weighing scale made because he promised her he'd go on a diet. So he had a special weighing scale made to take his weight.
That's correct.
Wow! Okay, genius.
Oh my son, we were looking bad.
88% approval rating.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Badass.
That's correct. That's 37% more than you didn't do anything.
I wonder who that is, but that again, it's personality, character, it's style and substance potentially that can get you
very
very
dangerous these days. The demagoguery.
Someone hissed at me and I enjoyed it. But I think it was, there was a flamboyance and an eccentricity. My friend works in the Churchill War Rooms, and there's a red velvet boiler suit of his that's now in there. But even through the glass, she says you can smell it. It's just got that much gravitas where it's been that sort of warm, but it's like serious red velvet boiler suit.
Was the Ivo, do you think, the archetypal Englishman? Funny, not very religious, loved to drink and smoke, didn't care much about his appearance, no respect for authority, could be rude and foul-mouthed, a top but not a snob, liked to fight, loved to. That sounds like that could be Mark Clark. Is that I'm reloading!
That's very English. You're quintessentially English because half of you use it.
But don't you often find that? Don't you often find people who have a parent from another culture or a first generation can become more British or English than their fellow?
That's very true. Also, like the British people in Malawi are more British than any British person I've ever met here.
Yeah.
They still wear old school, like those hats and things like that. I don't know the right term, but
yeah, they're on penny carving.
So you're right.
What do you? I feel like you would know about this. I feel like you have a good opinion on this.
No,
Stereotypical ideas of Englishness.
but they're quite sort of deluded romantic ideas.
Well, let's explore that.
I just think that you have to assess the achievements in the context of the time and how necessary they were and how
Pluto!
But I think you mustn't get too clouded over by the sense that it was all done with this great roguish charm. Even though it's obviously quite fun when you watch it in The Crown or whatever, we live in an era more than ever where that sort of populist swagger is a smokescreen for so much sort of awful sort of malevolence, I think. So I think better with someone like Churchill. And if you're wondering where the census is going, so am I. I think we should open envelope 2. Enough Churchill loving. Yes, I've envelope 2.
This is what Beatrice Webb thought of him when she met him, and see who this makes you think of. Egotistical, bumptious, shallow-minded and reactionary, but with a certain personal magnetism, great pluck and some originality, not of intellect but of character, more of the American speculator than the English aristocrat.
Did that make anyone pop into your mind? Yes, Trump, he was the guy was a supreme egoist. All of his virtues could be seen almost in equal measure as vices. This is why the man's so complex. That's quite unusual in one of our ingenious subjects. The evil and the genius are one and the same. Everything we were just saying about how he helped win the war is also true of his worst moments and mistakes. This is the dilemma. He made shed loads of money touring. Let's not judge people. And, not in the Highlands, no. It's really hard to get a ticket there. And he said his brother had no queues. He was the highest paid English author of the day, but his earning powers were rarely sufficient to pay bills because he couldn't control his spending habits to run his estate efficiently. One of his biographers wrote, Churchill was helped by 8 or 9 indoor servants, nanny, governess, 2 secretaries, a chauffeur, 3 gardeners, a groom, and a working baby. Does that sound like a fat item? Now, I just wanted to, as comedians, it's quite a comfortable area for us, because there really is, I think, for people that want to say something and empower change, make people feel something, there is a sweet spot, if they're not, between narcissism and giving. You need just enough self-interest in speech mind, but also an urge to really, through stand-up, make an audience genuinely feel joy and happiness. It's a horrible line to walk. Can it be resolved as a politician? And it's so relevant today.
I think that...
Just talk about your dad.
I think it depends what you want someone to do. We don't want to hang out with this man. We don't want this person to be great fun in the pub. We want them to run the country. And sometimes you need a bully and an egotist to do it well. But you would hate to be friends with them. I think that's the thing.
But is that like... I feel like we've got the opposite. I feel like spend time down the pub. We don't care what their pubs do.
And I think that's the problem now.
Yeah, I think it's all very exciting brand. It's all very well and good on stag. When it comes to actually sort of managing resources and looking after people in a wider sense, I think it's such an overrated sort of thing beyond being just quite telegenic. I mean, so listen, I've got a certain amount of privilege to check here, obviously, having gone to the aforementioned Eton College. I'm not going to stand here and say that I wouldn't want an Etonian to be Prime Minister, because I'm not allowed to say that. I'd be breaking school rules, and I'd run with blood either. I'd have to give back my country. Okay, let's get into some of the stuff he did. He was a bit of an individualist. He sort of went with what he believed. That is a good thing, but it's a bad thing. For example, he went on record favouring votes for women in principle, but detested suffragettes for interrupting meetings. The ego again. He slashed the suffrage bill and refused to investigate police brutality against suffragettes. He carried a bus to the podium and was wearing a red jacket. Wow. I'm trying to take the story, but that's where we are. The podium. Go on, it's the bus to the podium. What I'm saying is we're giving it the vegan about judging it, but yes, who do you want to join you in a fight?
This is exactly like if we were going to have like trial by combat. If I did something wrong and I needed a defender, I would not choose somebody nice. I would ask for Tyson or something. But like I'd ask for like Tyson 1980, not the nice writing poetry current Tyson.
No.
You sometimes you want a bastard.
Yeah.
And against the Nazis, it's like Tom Trump's. You've got a bastard, you've got a bigger bastard.
Envelope 3, how's it?
I have envelope number 3.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
These were randomly allocated, I promise.
Okay, I promise. What? Okay. On racial questions. Just in case this is massively offending, be aware that the speaker is black. On racial questions, Churchill was still a late Victorian. He tried in vain to maneuver the cabinet into restricting West Indian immigration. Keep England white was a good slogan, he told the cabinet in January 1955.
He loved that slogan, keep England white. Now I know it's 1955, but it's not 1855. We've got this living memory. A lot of us have parents that were born after that time, well within living memory. What's Churchill's reputation like in Malawi and Africa?
He is very criticized because he was massively imperialist and he felt he was doing us a favor by subjugating us. He said a lot of racist things about Africans.
Churchill consistently opposed independence for India in a way that made him a far-right extremist even at that time, and held clearly racist views on other groups. In Churchill's view, white Protestant Christians were at the top of the racial hierarchy, above white Catholics, while Indians were higher than Africans.
We're at the bottom! At the very bottom! There's so many other ethnic groups he could throw into his little pyramid, and he put us right at the bottom.
Would you like to nominate a few others?
That's where you can check my... I'm silent now.
Guess who agreed with him? We've done a show about Gandhi before. Jess, do you know what Gandhi's first civil rights victory was? Enshrined in law.
Oh,
it's going to be something horrible about women, isn't it? It was to have a separate queue from Indians and Africans at the post office, so they wouldn't have to queue India Africans. Gandhi was on the same page as his Churchill before our high horse bolts from the stable of deputy judgment.
At the same time, Churchill hated Gandhi, didn't he?
Oh, God.
Because he wanted to liberate India, and he felt the Britain was doing India a favor.
I think that that sort of nationalism, it's nationalism and it's not patriotism, but that it was even narrowed down more than that. I think it was like his love of Englishness, even within Britain. His behaviour in Wales and Ireland was pretty disgusting. He's not considered much of a hero.
Very wise mission of Scotland there, Jess. Very well done.
Well, I don't know if he's got formed for behaviour bad, but in Wales in Tony Pandy, there was a miners' strike and he sent the army in. He oversaw genocidal massacres all across the empire. Like, such good banter.
We have to remember what pay. When people always talk about World War II, we have to think about the genocide. But when we talk about millions dying, you're probably all thinking of what the Germans did. This is alleged by a very well-respected academic, Mukherjee. When we got to 1943, it looked like some areas of India were quite strategic. The Japanese could get in and take areas of India that would give them a good fighting point. Churchill, it's alleged, instructed what's called scorched earthing of certain parts of India, so there would be no reason to invade, no food, nowhere to go. Then there was a typhoon in the Bay of Bengal at the same time. This led to the death and starvation of 3 million Indians, but it's just not talked about.
There is a level, though, of, at the time, it's what England was doing. It was imperial, and you were all being imperialists, and he was just very good at the national brand.
Yeah, but scorched...
It's like, it's in 100 years, they're all about, we're all such consumers. Well, that's what we are doing. That's our brand right now. And
it's anachronistic to go back and say, of this time.
That's some of it sold.
Kipling, there's all sorts of people who we can go, well, their work was very good, but they had these views which were very imperialistic, and but of the time, they were a perfectly normal point of view, and we can't attach shame to something retrospectively that wouldn't have been shameful at the time. But Rudyard Kipling's job wasn't running the country and in parts of the world, and Churchill's was.
Yeah, and I think also insisted that India continued to export rice during the Second World War, even during the Bengal famine, which I hate to use the word cheat.
The inside track features the top 30
while they were planning that country.
I think he also blamed them a bit and said, well, they're in trouble because they breed like rabbits.
He didn't think of them as human beings. Obviously, you know, scorch a place. You don't ask if it's food during the famine.
No, so Churchill believed that British rule in India was a guarantee of good government and the protecting of the masses. Self-government, he predicted, would lead to exploitation, corruption, and communal strife.